Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to the third video in my series about PanPastels. Today I'm going to show you how to use the multi-step stamps with the PanPastels. I'm using this Friends of Life set by Simon Says Stamp. It's got lots of multi-step stamps, and I have two colors of blue PanPastels. I'm going to start with my solid stamp in the Misty on some Nina Solar White cardstock. I'm going to ink this up with some Versamark ink because that is what kind of makes these PanPastels really shine. And the reason why I'm using the Misty is because I want to stamp these flowers twice, since I can't really see them and I'm not for sure knowing that I'm getting good coverage, so I figured stamping them twice, I'm just going to double check that I get good coverage. So I'm going to stamp it once and then I'll ink it up again and stamp it again. Notice I started a little off center. Now I can't see where I stamp, so I'm just going to take a little bit of the light blue and I'll use my finger to put a little bit of this on top of the Versamark, and it'll really allow me to see the edges of the flower so that I can stamp the next ones. And I do want to mask these so that they look like they're on top of each other. So I stamped and cut on a Post-it, and now I'm going to take my stamp again and put it right there next to it, and then I'm going to stamp that twice. And I did notice that it's really hard to stick the mask to the paper once it has the pastel on it, because the pastel is kind of chalky and so it doesn't really stick very well. So I just had to be careful to make sure that my mask was placed exactly over the image and just be careful not to move it because it came off every single time. Anyway, so again, I'm going to go through the same process with this one, just kind of put some pastel on top of it so I could see where it is so that I can mask it and stamp the next one. For my last one, I actually had to switch to the bigger Misty because there wasn't enough space in the mini Misty. So here's my last one. And now I can cover this totally with my PanPastel. So I'm using the big sponge that came with my set, my 20 count set. And you can see how absolutely gorgeous it looks with just a very light hand. I'm putting just a little bit of the medium on top and just kind of brushing the top of it, and it looks great. Now I'm going to extend it on one side and color the white cardstock so that it matches the blue. But you'll see that the color is much more faded than it is on the Versamark. And that's fine because it allows my flowers to kind of pop out a little bit. You can see I just barely tapped that other blue pastel and it got a lot on my sponge. So you can see it's also really easy. Even though it's streaky when you first applied, I wasn't worried about that because I can just keep applying it and it'll even out and blend in. It looks really pretty. So I went over the whole thing with this light color and just added a touch of that dark. And now I'm going to move on to the second stamp of the set. And I'm going to go through the same thing where I'm masking and stamping, and I'm just going to stamp this second step on all the different flowers here. And I noticed that I needed one extra flower at the edge here, so I went ahead and masked that last flower, stamped that solid one more time, and then I just took my big sponge and colored it so it would look just like the other ones. And now what I'm going to do is take my darker blue and I'm just going to put a little bit in the center of each flower, and just to give it a little bit of dimension. So I kind of put a little bit too much on this first one because I forgot what I was doing, but I really just wanted to put a tiny little bit in the middle, and that's just to accentuate the very center of the flower where I'm going to get the darkest shadow. So once I get kind of this darker color, I'll have the names of the colors on my blog post. Then I'm going to take my sponge and go back to the lighter color, and I'm going to go over the whole thing again, and this is going to darken the second step of that second stamp that I put on there. It's going to darken it on top of that first layer. So you can layer it with the same color like I'm doing now, or you can add it in a different color like I did in the center. So as you can see, the more PanPastel I put on, you're able to see that second stamp that I stamped on each of these flowers. You can also see that I put that dark blue on with my finger, and when I put the light blue on with the sponge, it really blended those two colors together on that second stamp. Now some people were worried about cleanup. This is just a very damp cloth, and I just rubbed it across my craft mat and it came right off. So really there's not a whole lot of mess with these PanPastels. Next I'm going to stamp the inside with some Hero Arts ink. I took a small stamp and did it, and I thought, you know, I didn't really like there was that white outline around it, so I grabbed a bigger one and used the ink. And you have to be careful because it is a little bit slippery on top of the chalk, so you have to go straight down and straight up when you're stamping. Next I'm going to cut the bottom portion of these flowers so that they kind of stop at the edge there. And then I'll take an ATG tape runner and put it on top of a card base. I'm going to put this back in my MISTI. I'm using from Butterfly Basics this Happy Birthday sentiment. It's just a simple cursive sentiment. And I'm going to use some Hero Arts black ink for that as well. And then I'm going to do some final detail here with a white gel pen. And I'm sorry you can't see it, but I have to be perpendicular to the paper when I'm applying these dots. So I'm just going down and up, and you'll get a perfect circle. So I'm doing a bunch on the black, and then I'm doing just a little bit on the edge past that black going up the flower. If you're getting a half circle, try writing on a piece of scratch paper and you should get a full circle after that. And that is the third card. So again, pretty quick and easy card. I hope you enjoyed that. And I will see you next time for the last card in this series. Hope you're enjoying it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.